Welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at 1918/1919 Storm in the West. And this is from Ted Raicer, who's designed a number of World War I games. This is kind of a strategic level game, and this is kind of a 2-in-1. It was recently put out by GMT, and what this is a deluxe version of, I think, something that came in a magazine at some point. And they've basically, I think it was from like 2000, I don't know, but it was re-put into a nice fancy box, and it includes so it's 1918, it's the end of the war. This covers like the last 9 months, but then there's an optional variant to do Plan 1919, which was all of the Allied push to end the war and to kind of push into Germany. So, 2-player war game. Says that it's reasonable. It says it's a 4 on the complexity scale out of 9. So that's fairly arbitrary, but I'm hoping that it's reasonable this time. And you can solo it decently. Ted's games usually, whilst not designed solitaire, like player neutral, you can play with one person usually, and it's just fine. So let's see what we've got here. He says, dropping the lid. Okay, and it's a fairly light box, 2-inch box, but we've got the rules of play, and this is fairly standard GMT fair rulebook. So, bunch of text, counter explanations, and then you'll get a few diagrams with movement and combat. But basically, the rules themselves, 18 pages of rules. And then there's, because it's kind of that part of it, then there's the different scenarios and setups. So we've got Plan 1919, Allied Offensive here, the Storm elsewhere. So there's some variants. There's the 1919 version, which has a lot more additional rules and bits and pieces to it. And then some appendices as well, which is always nice. But yeah, it's rules, not much. It's not the big, chunkiest rule book that I've ever seen. There's a couple of sheets of counters here. Well, it's like 1 and a bit. So these are the counters, and if you've played any of something like Paths of Glory, this is very much that same counter style. So you got these nice, the grey ones. The typeface that they use, the color palette choice that they've used, it's very reminiscent of that. And these are dual-sided, so you have a reduced side on most of these as well. And these, let's see, they punch pretty easily. Yeah, and these are the very thick, like, these aren't, I don't think these are the thickest that GMT have ever done, but they're up there. They're very thick grey core counters. I had one game by GMT. It was actually a Ted Raicer game. It's called Reds. Those counters are so thick I can't put them in my counter clipper. So these are not quite there, although they'll be real close. So these are big, chunky, nice counters, which is, I appreciate that. And then we've got a few extra counters on here as well. I think this is just, these are the ones that you add in for 1919. And so, don't mix them in with that. Keep them separate whilst you're punching them so you don't have to fish these out of that pool later on. So do yourself a favour. And then the other stuff we've got in here is, let's do it. We have 2 play aid cards. Oh. We've got 2 play aid cards, which have the CRT on them, replacement charts, and these are identical, so you're going to get one for each player. They are dual-sided, so you've got terrain effects charts, and then you've got replacement charts for the Plan 1919 scenario as well. But very clear, very clean. Play aids, 1 each. 2d6, these are both black, come in a little baggie. And then there's the map. We'll take a look at that, obviously. But that's it. That's what's in the box. The rest of this is a shipping insert. So once you get a counter tray for all of these in here, everything's going to fit in very nicely. But let's take a look at the last thing that we've got in this box, which is the map, and that's what we came for. And it's obviously it's dual-sided. It's double-sided. So this is the main game. This is 1918 Storm in the West. Very, very nice artwork on it. I like this style of artwork where there's a good level of contrast. It doesn't feel like it's washed out, which some World War I maps, you know, they're like, oh, we'll make it like an old map. And so it feels a little bit dull. They got nice bright green on the forest, which I appreciate. But we've got a data track here. So this is going to have turns, replacements. There's a number of different events and morale markers that are going to go on here. This is kind of a turn, not a turn record track. We've got turn record track over here, but this is your game records track. That's what they call it. But yeah, data track. So you're going to track a bunch of different markers on here, and those are all, it's all this stuff down here. These different markers are going to be on here, going at different levels. Then we do have, here, let's get out of the glare. So we've got turn record track here. And roll for influenza, yikes, that's ugly. And then we've got Allied dead pile, German dead pile. They do not mince their words in this game. And then there's a terrain key here, but it doesn't explain the effects. Those are on the play aid chart. Yeah, generally I really like the way that this map looks. So you've got Germany, dashed line over here. The rest of, we've got France and then Belgium up top here. Ardennes Forest in the middle. You can see the starting marked in trench line as well. It's kind of what you would expect from a World War I game, is that kind of detail printed on the map. And then the reverse side of this is the Plan 1919 variant. You can see it's ever so slightly different with how the trenches are set up and that. But this is basically yeah. Other than that, I think so. We've got differences on the data track. Turn record track's much smaller, and then I think it was a lot of. Let me just double check before I spit that out. Is it the same? No, it's different. Oh, it's different. Okay, good. And I don't know exactly. Okay, the big difference is that these German, this trench line, this secondary trench line. This in the earlier map it was a German secondary trench line, and in this one it's basically become a primary trench line. In that, you know, they've spent the winter digging all of these out, so it's even harder to push through here. So presumably this is where Plan 1919 they had Royal Tank Regiment was building a lot more tanks, so hopefully we'll get to use those a bit more significantly in these as well. So. That's the maps, though. It's components-wise, it's kind of refreshing to have a smaller style game. I don't have a ton of counters, but it's a nice World War I game, which will be interesting to play with. Always like good World War I theme as well. I feel like I don't play a lot of it. Ted Racer makes most of the popular ones, so the ones that I have played have been his. But more World War I. Hopefully it plays in a reasonable amount of time as well. It's not that many turns. I wouldn't have thought that it does. I don't know if they say on here. 4 hours? Okay. So it's a good afternoon playing this. But I'm excited to play this. Hopefully we'll crack this one out soon and let you know how it is. But 1918/1919 Storm of the West from GMT. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.